Welcome to APABI Focus this time. This time we're pleased to have Marwan, who is General Manager of the Emirates Institute of Finance, EIF. So welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here today with you.
Thank you. I wanted to just start off with the general introduction to EIF. You can tell me a little bit more about what your institution is doing, just for some kind of background before we get into some of the more specific stuff about the Emirates. But can you tell me a little bit about how does EIF position itself within the Emirates financial system? What are your vision, core objectives, key priorities that you're working on this year? Just a little bit of background, I guess.
Absolutely. So the Emirates Institute of Finance was established 43 years ago, and the main purpose was to focus on talent development in the banking sector. And from there on, it evolved through the years, and the new direction that Emirates Institute of Finance has is we are getting away from a traditional training institute to a more of a sovereign, data-driven system. And what I mean by that we are part of a bigger ecosystem of the financial system of the United Arab Emirates, which is composed of different areas, different free zones, different regulators working all together for a financial ecosystem that is unique in the United Arab Emirates. And we are moving out of a traditional training institute to an organization that enables that whole ecosystem in two main areas. The one area is the talent development, where we orchestrate what does talent mean in that financial ecosystem. And we work very closely with all the stakeholders involved, whether it is the financial institutions that are regulated by central bank, or other areas like VARA or FIDA, which are different regulators regulating part of the ecosystem, or free zones like the DIFC or ADGM. And then we aggregate the learning and the development that happens for the talent in those areas through best-in-class learning providers. We don't do the learning ourselves anymore. That's on the learning piece. And the other side is the innovation side, which is EIFI, which is Emirates Institute of Finance Innovation Hub, which is the deregulatory sandbox of the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates, which has a very unique positioning in the market because it's the only innovation hub that has the regulator in-house with it. So it plays a very big advantage for all the participants, whether they are early entry into the industry or existing incumbents, where the regulator is sitting there at the discussions of innovations and hackathons and testing of technologies at early stages, where that would ease up eventually the licensing and the advancement in technologies. Those two levers are the levers that Emirates Institute of Finance operates in: the learning piece, which is the talent development piece, and the innovation and technology piece, serving the whole ecosystem, as I mentioned, which is very unique to the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, that sounds unique. And actually, that was kind of where I wanted to go with my next question, which was about the Dubai International Financial Center. And actually, just to step back for a second, the reason I wanted to ask about this is because Taiwan is thinking about creating its own financial hub. And a number of different APABI countries are in various stages creating their own financial centers, or maybe they have their existing financial centers, but they want to learn about their international positioning. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about, well, specifically, why has DIFC risen so quickly in the international rankings? So in 2025, it ranked 11th on the Global Financial Centers Index. And also, how does DIFC kind of interface with the domestic financial sector already in the Emirates?
Absolutely. So DIFC is an integral part of the whole financial ecosystem that includes many different areas. And this is how the United Arab Emirates financial ecosystem is composed of. You've got banks and financial institutions, insurance firms, exchange houses that are licensed onshore. You've got then different free zones and different regulators that are very well established and serving and helping in this whole ecosystem together, where the IFC, ADGM, and the likes work very closely with the onshore regulators and with the alternative assets regulators too. There's a combination of regulators that work very closely together, and depending on the specialization of where an entity or a financial institution would like to specialize, we all work together on leading them to the right place. So if an entity or a fintech company would like to start at the IFC and eventually would like to offer services onshore, there is a very clear pathway, and they could be licensed in both areas and work very closely with two regulators at the same place. And I think the reason why the IFC has really expanded is basically the complexity of how the DIFC is established with its own regulators, with its own laws and judicial system, plus the coordination with the onshore regulator, plus providing all the facilities, the ease of access, the ease of operating in the UAE adds a lot to that, and they are a very big contributor to this whole ecosystem.
Yeah, what I've heard about the DIFC sounds relatively unique, so that's kind of interesting. And then the other part, you mentioned the Innovation Hub, and it kind of, I guess, serves as like a sandbox. So what has, how specifically does EIF partner with Innovation Hub? And what have you learned from this partnership? What have you achieved through this partnership?
So the purpose of the Innovation Hub is, and being part of this whole federal central bank ecosystem, is mainly not to compete with many other innovation hubs, either in the UAE or globally, but we work as part of this whole ecosystem that I explained earlier. So you've got many entities, many international banks, many local banks that have their own innovation hubs. You've got an innovation hub in ADGM and DIFC. So the way the innovation hub works in EIF, that we are somehow like a bridge that bridges all the different stakeholders involved and provide this ecosystem or a safe space for technology to be tested, for providing the regulatory sandbox options, white paper and research work, and to bring the talent and to allow them and give them the space to innovate and work with them on the sideways. And this is special only for EIF, where the regulator is sitting in the same room, and the connection with the licensing stage would be directly with the Innovation Hub rather than starting all over again with the regulator. This space has got the regulator even physically sitting there. You have the space, you're able to innovate, you're able to test the technology, you're able to write your research, you're able to collaborate and work very closely with different talents, whether it is innovations that are coming from the big banks, innovation coming from insurance firms, fintechs, and the talent that we come and develop their skill set with us. They are given that space to innovate and collaborate with each other. There are many entities in the financial ecosystem that don't really need financing. They just have to collaborate with a financial institution, and they could offer their services to them. So this meeting point, this area that they all could meet and mix and collaborate, is EIFI. And we've got thousands of members that either are in the process of getting licensed or would not be licensed but needed in this ecosystem, whether it is big tech companies, communication, all those that will serve the financial ecosystem for it to serve. This is the space for them to be available, to collaborate with all different stakeholders, and provide them also the resources needed to register their IPs, do their copyrights, protect their technology that they are building.
So it's quite comprehensive, and it's interesting to hear about how different APABI member institutes have their own models. You're working very closely with a lot of these the regulator side, and that can kind of help financial businesses in UAE. So I wonder, just one more question, if you have any messages or any expectations from APABI that you want to share.
Definitely. Part of our strategy for the next 3 years is really globalization and to really export this knowledge that we're building, which is very unique to the United Arab Emirates globally. And we are building this into 2 areas as similar to the structure of EIF itself, where we'll be providing learning solutions for global counterparts and global central banks for them and global entities to learn of the model that the UAE has in terms of learning side. And on the other side is the export of the technology that the UAE is really advancing in, especially in the field of AI and agentic AI specifically. And how do we export this technology globally, either through the venues of APABI and other central banks that we work very closely with. So I think that the part of that mandate is to really go global and to export the technology and the learning that we got from this technology and the way this whole ecosystem works together. And we're open for the collaboration with APABI members.
That's a good message. So thank you for appearing today.
My pleasure. All the time. Thank you.
Great. Bye.
All right.